Let's move on now. President Vladimir Putin has signaled that Russia will consider resuming nuclear tests if the United States does so. Putin made the announcement while convening a Security Council meeting after Trump's comments on testing. Putin said that Russia had always strictly adhered to its obligations under the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, but that if the United States or any nuclear power tested such a weapon, then Russia would do so too.
Although I know the danger of war, the suffering, the difficulty of war, the difficulty of the battlefront and the risks, I would still sign a contract because Russia gave me a salary that I could have never dreamt of in Iraq. Russia gave me benefits that I could not get in Iraq.
Putin's remarks comes days after Trump declared that Washington will restart its own nuclear testing program, threatening to upend one of the last symbolic restraints of the post-Cold War order. Just a day ago, Putin signaled ushering a new age of nuclear superweapons that are designed to dominate the 21st century and to ensure strategic parity with the U.S. and its allies. Speaking at a ceremony honoring the engineers and developers behind these weapons, Putin had said that Russia is not threatening anyone, framing these advances as part of global nuclear balance and not aggression. The weapons in question are the Burevestnik, a nuclear-powered cruise missile with virtually unlimited range, and Poseidon, a nuclear-powered underwater drone capable of massive destruction, with some reports claiming it can trigger a radioactive tsunami. If Russia proceeds, it will be the country's first nuclear test since 1990. The United States last tested a nuclear bomb in 1992, China and France in 1996. It is the U.S. which has conducted over 1,000 nuclear weapon tests, closely followed by Russia, which conducted over 700 nuclear tests. Beyond symbolism, such a test could reshape the strategic calculus between Moscow, Washington, and Beijing, potentially prompting a cascade of responses that redraw the contours of global nuclear policy. Russia and the United States are the world's biggest nuclear powers, holding about 88% of the world's nuclear weapons. Russia possesses 5,580 nuclear weapons, while the U.S. has 5,044. A Russian return to nuclear testing would shatter a global moratorium that has largely held for 3 decades. It would further weaken the already fragile Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. It will effectively undermine decades of progress towards arms control. The move also raises the specter of a new arms race, intensifying crisis instability amid the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and growing uncertainty in U.S. strategic policies. For NATO and the United States, the challenge now lies in crafting a diplomatic and military response that prevents escalation while reinforcing global norms against testing.
I don't see Russia being rattled at all. In fact, I see Russia being in the dominant position on the tactical battlefield, on the strategic battlefield, and everybody else is responding. And even this issue here about the nuclear weapons, you have to understand that this particular round was initiated when Russia tested the platform of their Poseidon submarine or underwater missile, and then their Burevestnik new, basically kind of a Tomahawk-like cruise missile that has nuclear propulsion. They tested the platforms, not the nuclear weapons. And then President Trump, in response to that, said, well, I'm going to test nuclear weapons. And he was asked to clarify, do you mean nuclear platforms like the Russians, or do you mean nuclear weapons? And so far, he's been unwilling to clarify exactly what he meant. And so now we see that reaction that Russia is saying, if you test a nuclear weapon, so will we. And listen, that's moving us in directions that nobody needs to go. This doesn't help Ukraine. This doesn't help the West. It doesn't make Russia any less likely to do anything. This will only stir the pot further if the United States does this nuclear testing. And I hope that President Trump did never mean that, and certainly that it wouldn't happen. And if it doesn't, there's every reason to believe that Russia will not, because as your package there just pointed out, Russia the Russian Federation, since the demise of the Soviet Union, has never tested a nuclear weapon, and there's no reason to think they will now, unless it's in retaliation to us. But also, as you pointed out here and in your previous package, the tactical battlefield at both the front line and in the operational space is expanding and accelerating in Russia's favor. And at the best that everything can be done on the Ukraine side with all the Western support is just a trickle in comparison. And this is ultimately, and everybody needs to understand this, a war of attrition at every level. And Russia has all the capacity in material and manpower to win this war. And the longer we keep going, the greater the chances that Ukraine will lose.